The Baryon mode has burnt out, presumably taking the very life force of Naruto with it and dissipating Kurama as well. However, this battle and the constant struggle between our shinobi and the Otsutsuki continues on in Boruto chapter 54. When we last left off, Ishiki was forced to play his final hand and invade the Leaf Village himself to retrieve Kawaki since being drawn out of Jigen's host body into his true form. An attack this direct would usually be considered some type of hasty, especially for an organization that's been, moving so cautiously for so many years, but Ishiki's time has been severely limited due to Amato and Kashin Koji. Once in the Leaf Village, Ishiki is immediately met by Naruto, who appears at the forefront in order to save as many lives as he can from the oncoming rampage. Ishiki, however, is in quite the rush to restore the karma onto Kawaki since it was deleted after his resurrection. In order for him to do so, however, Kawaki must be drawn out of the village and brought back within his clutches. This is when the battle threatens to begin as Naruto presents himself as the last line of defense between Kawaki and Ishiki himself, resulting in another karma and indefinite power as a result of feeding Boruto to the Divine Tree. In this state, Ishiki's power is far more overwhelming than it was when he was hosted by Jigen's body. Along with his dojutsu that allows him to shrink pretty much anything that his eye lay its sights upon, and his superior strength, speed, and ninjutsu, Ishiki forced Naruto and Kurama into quite a predicament. With no other options left, this is when Kurama suggests Naruto a form that they've never really undergone before, and for good reasons as well. This new form Kurama spoke of was something akin to nuclear fusion, as he explained it, as their two chakras melded into a force to be reckoned with. Naruto's new Baryon mode, as they called it, burned with the flaming aggression of both he and Kurama's chakra, but as he engaged in his battle with Ishiki again, at first it seemed like not much had changed. All of a sudden, Ishiki's body is put under extreme duress as the amount of time he thought he had until his lifespan ran out had been cut nearly in half out of nowhere. This is when it's explained that although Naruto's attacks may have lacked in physical power compared to his previous forms, what had actually been going on is with every hit, Naruto was causing Ishiki to age bit by bit until the Otsutsuki finally caught on that these strikes were actually meant to decay him. This sends Ishiki into a panic as he only has moments remaining before his chance to restamp Kawaki with the karma is gone, so instead of wasting even more time with Naruto, Sasuke, and the others, he uses his space-time ninjutsu to transport Kawaki directly to the battlefield. With both Naruto and Sasuke taken care of by Ishiki now, there's really nothing standing between him and Kawaki besides the cunning of a vessel only thought to be an object for the Otsutsuki. Masking himself from the Byakugan's range using a special smoke bomb, Kawaki is able to kill as much time as he possibly can, hiding from Ishiki until his life runs out. Eventually, however, Ishiki does get his hands on Kawaki, and this ends with him finally, after so much trouble, implanting him yet again with another karma. With his mission complete, Ishiki no longer fears his life expiring as he welcomes being resurrected when the time is right through Kawaki. However, something isn't right here. This is when Kawaki reveals that AC had up his sleeve the whole time. He let himself be captured by Ishiki in order for him to let his guard down when the time was right. Or rather, he allowed his shadow clone to be captured. Once Ishiki had implanted the karma on the shadow clone and lowered his guard, the real Kawaki revealed himself, but by that time, Ishiki's lifespan had run its course, and in the matter of moments, the Otsutsuki was no more than dust. Before they celebrate their victory, however, Sasuke with his keen eyes demands to know just what sort of damage Naruto had done to himself by using that form. Before he can explain, however, Boruto, possessed by Momoshiki once again, devastates the entirety of the Leaf Village to its core when he stabs and effectively destroys Sasuke's Rinnegan, incapacitating him right alongside Naruto now. If you guys want to check out Boruto Naruto Next Generations for yourselves, as always, I personally recommend sites like Viz Media and the Shonen Jump app to always support the official releases. If you haven't already, be sure to have those notifications turned on to never miss an upload as soon as they go live. And if you have been enjoying all of the anime content recently, consider leaving a like on this video as well. Be sure to follow on both Twitch and Twitter to stay up with me and all anime related content, guys. But without further ado, As the dust settles from Boroshiki's devastating surprise attack, Naruto, Kawaki, and Sasuke all prepare themselves for the new dilemma at hand now, but how did this even happen? There, I blocked your pesky space-time ninjutsu, Momoshiki says. There's no escape for you now. Momoshiki's completely taken over Boruto's body this time, Naruto says, panicking. This is the second time now that I've emerged, Momoshiki says. It sure is nice, being free. In his injured hand, Boruto clutches the kunai he used to attack Sasuke as Sasuke notices that Boruto's shattered wrist seems to be completely healed now. Based on his movements, he continues, his other fractures are too. Must be his special healing abilities. Don't you want to get rid of it, Kawaki says to Boruto, trying to snap him out of it. This annoying, accursed curse mark. So help me out, he says, showing Boruto his karma as he remembers the promise Boruto made him before this mission even began. You've been freed too, Kawaki, Momoshiki says. Ishiki's soul has been thoroughly extinguished. Where's your smile? I know you're in there, Kawaki says, ignoring Momoshiki. Don't let him control you, Boruto. Wake up already. But this is when Momoshiki makes the comment that Boruto's freedom, however, seems to be fleeting. Overflowing with anger, Kawaki goes on to attack Boruto, who's still being overtaken by Momoshiki at this point, but even with his massive attack, Momoshiki easily dodges him. Kawaki blocks a shuriken thrown at him, and this is kind of like some really dope foreshadowing in my opinion regarding Kawaki and Boruto, with this being, I guess, kinda their first actually serious battle. Obviously somewhat reminiscent of their ancestors. Eventually, however, Kawaki is caught by Boruto with a kunai to the back, pinning him to the ground. Good. It's just as I'd hoped, Momoshiki says, inspecting Kawaki. It seems the extraction has progressed quite far, which means it should work. This is when Sasuke appears back on the scene and is able to remove him from Kawaki, although the fight is long from over now. After getting back to their feet, however, Kawaki demands to know just what he meant by that comment. This is when Momoshiki explains that if the karma itself has vanished, the Otsutsuki data that was extracted remains in the body. Just as with Boruto, he goes on, the process was at about 80% completion within you. That's right, your body is almost wholly Otsutsuki at this point. This stuns the entire battlefield as now there really seems to be no way to rid oneself of Otsutsuki after this development. As so, I should be able to use you, Momoshiki continues, as my sacrifice to cultivate the divine tree. It might be on the small side, but it ought to still yield a decent sized fruit. So, he's going to do the same thing Ishiki was planning to do with Boruto, Sasuke says, but with Kawaki now? I'll find that 10 tails that Ishiki hid somewhere, Momoshiki says, and then feed you to it and claim its fruit. I'm sick of you people using the rest of us like objects, Kawaki says angrily, and then charges at Momoshiki once more. Naruto does his best to try and return to the battle, however his entire body feels like a ton right now as he says it feels like he's made completely of lead and this really isn't good, but he loses consciousness before saying anything else. Boruto and Kawaki engage in battle once more, however Momoshiki is clearly the more powerful one at the moment. Before Kawaki is taken out, however, Sasuke once again enters the battle, saving him and using his lightning style to force Momoshiki to disengage. This is when Sasuke notices something rather strange, however, about how Momoshiki chose to avoid the attack. He should have easily been able to absorb that attack using karma, Sasuke says. So why didn't he? Do you really intend to kill your favorite student, Sasuke Uchiha? Momoshiki says. Sasuke, however, could never be swayed as a shinobi by such words when his mission is absolute, as he remembers his promise to Boruto beforehand as well. Yes, if I must, he replies, because I am his teacher. This is when he activates his Mangekyo Sharingan and targets Momoshiki with his lethal Amaterasu. Momoshiki is forced into quick action and makes a shadow clone in order to save himself from the endless flame. Sasuke takes note of him using the shadow clone as a shield as well, as this is very telling about the situation Momoshiki is in right now. Sasuke then fires a fireball jutsu at him, careful not to expend too much of his chakra again, and as Momoshiki is hit, Sasuke's assessments further develop. Kawaki takes note of Naruto's lifeless body on the ground, but Sasuke requires his help right now. He urges Sasuke that they should at least check on Naruto, but Sasuke assumes that this is just an ugly side effect of whatever that power was that he used earlier. This is bad, but we have no time to lose, he says. If we don't deal with Boruto first, we'll all be dead. He really seems to want to take you captive for the Divine Tree, Sasuke says, but at the same time, he can still escape from us using space-time ninjutsu as well. Don't forget that. Kawaki confirms that he understands as Sasuke tells him that he wants to get Boruto back before any of that happens, so at least they'll have a way to return to the village. That's easier said than done, Kawaki responds. Do you have any type of plan? This is when Sasuke explains his assessments to him, noting that Boruto lost consciousness due to him expending too much chakra. There's a high chance that this is the direct trigger to Momoshiki manifesting. Conversely, he goes on, if we can restore his chakra, Boruto may be able to regain consciousness. It's a pretty big leap in logic, Kawaki says, admiring Sasuke's savvy. You have any proof? Karma, Sasuke replies. He hasn't made any attempt to absorb jutsu using karma, probably because he can't risk refilling Boruto's chakra. That has to be it. As Momoshiki stalks them from across the battlefield listening in, he realizes that Sasuke, even without his Rinnegan, is still far more of a problem than he thought, as he'd completely deduced him in a matter of 2 engagements. It's time to bring that out, he confirms. I want to try and force him to absorb chakra, Sasuke says, without us going down first, of course. But the usual stuff ain't gonna cut it this time, I'm assuming, Kawaki says, agreeing. We might as well. But all of a sudden, something akin to an invisible bullet nearly pierces Sasuke's heart, collapsing him immediately. This is when Momoshiki shows himself once more, laughing, saying that may have been too weak to be a mortal blow, but still mighty painful if it hits your vitals. That was Boruto's vanishing Rasengan, Sasuke says, stunned, as Momoshiki approaches him once more. Kawaki is the next to incur his wrath, as he can't help but remember the recent but very vivid memories he shared with his brother Boruto, and having to see him like this. Momoshiki sends him flying as he warns him resisting is futile and to prepare to be eaten. The bond they shared, while short-lived, is one of the single factors empowering Kawaki to this day, as his relationship with those he met since entering the Leaf instilled the will of fire within him. You really are a pain in the butt, Boruto, Kawaki says, as Momoshiki reaches his hand out and prepares to teleport Kawaki away. From the very first moment we met, Kawaki says, as he throws up a hand sign out of nowhere and instantly combusts into flames all over himself. Momoshiki is now forced to make a very important choice as Kawaki's attack rages on. That's not a shadow clone either, Momoshiki says. He's really burning himself up. Has he lost his mind? Ugh. I'm not losing my only sacrifice, Momoshiki says, as he finally decides to absorb Kawaki's jutsu, rendering the flames useless as they enter the karma. Kawaki eventually collapses after his double-edged attack, with Sasuke nearby, as Momoshiki says that he had no choice really but to absorb that one. It wasn't a lot of chakra, but I've got to hurry, he says, before Boruto wakes up. It looks like it may already be a bit too late, however, as something instantly snaps within Momoshiki. Boruto's other eye opens as he struggles within himself to regain control and overcome Momoshiki's influence. As Boruto and Momoshiki struggle internally, Momoshiki attempts to steal Kawaki again as the space-time ninjutsu is activated. He begins to consume Kawaki with his jutsu, however it's stopped as soon as it starts, as Boruto continues to struggle, fighting with all of his might to suppress Momoshiki. That's enough, Momoshiki, Boruto says, as it looks like he's finally snapped out of this trance. Momoshiki attempts once more to grab at Kawaki, however Boruto seems to be back in the majority seat in the struggle internally as he commands Momoshiki to go back to his hiding space. This is when Boruto does something absolutely shocking. In order to silence Momoshiki for the foreseeable future and teach him a little lesson, Boruto grabs onto the horn that sprouts from his forehead every time Momoshiki takes over. My head still feels a little fuzzy from having just woken up, Boruto says, so I thought this might help things a little, he says as he begins to snap the horn. This is when he completely rips the Otsutsuki horn from his forehead, and this seems to not only suppress and weaken Momoshiki, but causes Boruto to lose consciousness once more as well, as the marks on his face fade and he collapses directly next to Kawaki. "Sorry to be so much trouble," Boruto says before finally passing out, with Kawaki returning the same as well. However, things may not have ended as smoothly as they first realized, as Sasuke immediately takes note of Naruto after the battle and, above all else, how Naruto hasn't seemed to have moved an inch in minutes.